So if you're here watching this video, there's a good chance you're a huge fan of PS1 era JRPGs just like me. And if you are, you probably already know that Suikoden 2 is one of the most sought after and expensive games from that era. Thankfully, it's a little easier to play nowadays thanks to the modern remaster. But I, being a certified madman, scoured eBay for hours back in 2017 and somehow snagged a legit North American copy for $50, which was ridiculously cheap even back then. But of course, there was a catch. My copy had somehow made its way all the way to Italy, and I had to wait 3 months for it to get loaded onto a boat, cross the Atlantic Ocean, go through customs and all of that. The game literally went halfway across the world to get here. And so there it sat over the years, smugly glaring at me from the shelf like it was better than me for having traveled internationally. But I, being a man of culture, did the only reasonable thing I could do. I started from the very beginning with Suikoden 1, and committed to collecting all 108 Stars of Destiny just so I could transfer my save into Suikoden 2 like a true connoisseur. But before we dive in, if you're a fan of the genre and this video gives you even a little bit of joy, please consider subscribing. I've pushed myself to the brink of financial ruin collecting these games, and I haven't eaten in weeks. So, Suikoden 1. Where do I even begin? Is the game actually good? Is it worth playing? Or should you just skip it entirely and dive straight into Suikoden 2? And is it weird that I was somehow surprised there even was a Suikoden 1? In today's JRPG circles, the sequel gets all the attention, and honestly, for what reason? First off, I want to talk about something I think is extremely cool about Suikoden games. And that's the fact that when you finish Suikoden 1, you can actually transfer your save into Suikoden 2. Doing this unlocks in-game bonuses, references, and even continuity details that carry over based on your choices and progress. Pretty cool, right? That kind of feature is crazy rare, especially in JRPGs of the 90s. I honestly can't think of another series from that era that did this, and it feels like a massive missed opportunity elsewhere. Another thing I find both unique and refreshing is that Suikoden 2 is a true sequel. Not just in name, but in world, characters, and ongoing narrative. You'll see returning faces, familiar places, and direct consequences from the first game playing out in the second. Again, that's super rare for JRPGs of this era. Final Fantasy, Breath of Fire, Wild Arms, most of them reset the board every time. Suikoden? It's telling a bigger story. Let's go a little deeper into Suikoden 1 itself. And just for the record, at the time I'm recording this, I haven't played Suikoden 2 yet, so everything I'm about to say is coming from pure, unspoiled perspective of a first-time player working through the series in order, as Konami intended. Suikoden 1 starts out with Tur McDole, son of an Imperial general, joining the Imperial Army alongside his childhood friends and his loyal retainer Gremio. Their first mission: collect overdue taxes from a tiny backwater town called Rockland. Side note, Frogman owes lots of taxes, please for the love of God subscribe to my channel. The mayor of Rockland claims that bandits from a nearby mountain stole the money after the villagers paid up, so naturally Tur and company head off to recover it. Shortly after that, they're sent north to visit a mysterious magician lady who supposedly has information useful to the Empire. You get there by riding on a guy's dragon, which I swear to you sounds just like an elephant. How in God's name was this sound effect allowed to be used for a dragon? Anyway, the magician lady turns out to be Leknat, seer of the Gate Rune, and she drops the bomb. The Empire? Bad. Really, really bad. Tur and the gang go home. When they get there, the Empire's at his door looking for his friend Ted, who dies trying to protect a powerful artifact, the Soul Eater rune, which he passes on to Tur. The Empire starts hunting Tur for it. Tur, heartbroken and betrayed, goes on the run, and somehow ends up becoming the leader of the Resistance Army. Within the first hour, you go from fresh-faced Imperial recruit whose daddy owns a dealership to public enemy number 1 leading an anti-Empire militia. There's not a ton of nuance. Tur's motivations feel rushed, the emotional shifts don't get much breathing room. And honestly, from that moment until the very end of the game, there's barely any plot development. You spend 80% of the game doing what's basically a political Pokemon quest, recruiting 108 Stars of Destiny to build your army. Sure, there's a few key beats. You fight your own father, General Tur McDole. There's betrayals and sacrifices and rune lore sprinkled throughout. But there's maybe 4 or 5 scenes in total that actually advance the core plot. And now, the final boss, spoiler warning, Emperor Barbarossa, the big bad of the Empire. Turns out, he wasn't really under the influence of Wendy, the evil sorceress, and twisted counterpart to Leknat. He loved her. She didn't love him back. She was just using him to get access to the Soul Eater rune that Ted gave to Tur. But Barbarossa, in a galaxy-brained act of emotional sabotage, let his whole empire fall apart and let Wendy use his armies, all in the hope that she'd love him back. The final boss of Suikoden 1 is arguably the first simp in what I believe to be all of modern contemporary history.
That's rough. That's really fucking rough.
And that, my friends, is basically the entire plot of Suikoden 1. But don't go anywhere, there's more to come. There's this strange feeling I get when I play this game. It's hard to describe, but just take a deep breath with me and let's go down a little rabbit hole together for a moment. Something about Suikoden 1 just feels off, and it took me a while to figure out why. I think this game might be some kind of romanticized communist propaganda piece that got turned into a JRPG. Now hear me out. You're uniting farmers, blacksmiths, merchants, typical working class nobodies to overthrow a ruling government that honestly hasn't done too much on screen that's evil, aside from the whole elf genocide thing that we're not going to talk about. And what do we call ourselves? The Liberation Army. Sounds suspiciously like the People's Liberation Army, doesn't it? And get this, the whole concept of the 108 Stars of Destiny comes from a real Chinese novel called Water Margin, which has been praised by Mao Zedong and taught in Chinese Communist Party schools and literally adapted into propaganda theater. Oh, and that grainy, pixelated title screen? It somehow looks like it was ripped straight from the end of a North Korean motivational video, right before the missiles launch and the accordion solo hits. I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe it's just a story about friendship, loyalty, and toppling an empire with turn-based combat. I'll let you be the judge. Believe it or not, there was this dark and mysterious period in video game history where whenever a game got localized, some baby boomer in a marketing office would decide, we should totally change the branding and art style for the Western audience. And in true boomer business logic, these decisions went about as well as you'd expect, which is to say, they birthed some truly astounding nightmares. Case in point, the cover of Suikoden. Here, we have a young Ron Jeremy, Conan the Barbarian if he was played by a brown Val Kilmer, Detective Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Elvis Presley holding some kind of alien probing device, the exact face you're making at my terrible jokes right now, and Rosie O'Donnell. I have no idea who these people are even supposed to represent from the actual game. I think this guy might be Emperor Barbarossa, but honestly, who knows? And here's the real kicker. When you open the case, which is of course a double jewel case despite the game only having one disc, because reasons, you're greeted with the manual, and oh boy, actual art from the Japanese release that clearly depicts the characters from the game. You know, the stuff they could have just used for the cover. Mom, can we get Suikoden? No, we have Suikoden at home. Suikoden at home. Now, let's review some of the wacky character portraits in the game. Normally, I would give a spoiler warning, but there's 108 characters in this game, and there's probably 5 that are memorable. My favorites, in no particular order. Here we have first of many furries, an elven femboy, Sleepy Dude, blonde Hercule from Dragon Ball Z, a soy boy, what you get if an anime character got hooked on crystal meth, a very phallic-shaped sad person. This one is probably my favorite. Kai Shidan from Mobile Suit Gundam, Chef Boyardee, a chode, and the dad from Wild Thornberries. I feel like the art style in general of this game is just absolutely all over the place. Now, I know I've shared a lot of negatives about this game so far, but here are my biggest takeaways. Firstly, Suikoden marks a really interesting time in JRPG history. It was one of the first JRPGs to release on the Sony PlayStation 1, right in that early transition era from the 16-bit world to the 32-bit world, and it shows, but not in a bad way. The game uses 2D sprites over 2D backgrounds, and the sprite work is actually great. The music? It's also fantastic. I do wish movement wasn't locked to just 4 directions, but all things considered, it's not a deal breaker. I may not have enjoyed Suikoden much, but I respect it for its place in JRPG history. The combat system's actually really enjoyable too. It has an auto battle option, and fights feel dynamic. Sprites are jumping around the screen, the camera's panning in and out. It's engaging enough that combat never really felt like a chore. And coming from me, someone who plays a lot of turn-based JRPGs, that says a lot. Then you've got the large army battles, teeny tiny baby sprite soldiers clashing on screen. Sure, it's basically just a fancy rock, paper, scissors game, but it's still exciting to watch unfold. Same goes for the one-on-one duels against bosses that sometimes have personal ties to you or your allies. They're also rock, paper, scissors in disguise, but the cinematic presentation makes them feel intense. I also genuinely like the home base mechanic. Building your army and upgrading your headquarters over time, that's something I haven't really seen much in other JRPGs. The save transfer to Suikoden 2 is also ridiculously rare, if not unheard of for this era, and collecting all 108 stars of Destiny, while functionally pointless unless you're gunning for Suikoden 2 bonuses, still feels satisfying. Especially when you hear that little "someone joined your cause" jingle. So, should you play Suikoden 1? Probably not. There's little to no story content, so you're not missing much if you jump straight into Suikoden 2. But it does have a special place in PlayStation history, and for that reason alone, I'm glad I played it. So, did you play Suikoden 1 back in the 90s? If so, what's your story with it? Any nostalgia-filled memories? Drop them in the comments below. I love hearing your guys' experiences with these old games.